there's this idea or this sentiment that that AI is not helpful and people are going to probably not like it and they're going to get mad at it and that type of thing. But my take on this is that nobody really wants to talk to an AI agent. But if you have an experience talking to one and it solves your problem or it gets you closer to the person that's going to solve your problem, you really don't mind. If it works, it's fine. It's okay. But when it doesn't work, that's when we get frustrated and those kinds of things. Yeah.
You didn't start your practice to barely hang on. I'll guess you started it for freedom, impact, and profit. This is Therapy for Your Money. I'm your host, Julie Harris. I'm an accountant, author of Profit First for Therapists, and CEO of Green Oak Accounting. Over the years, my team and I have partnered with hundreds of private practice owners, whether they're just getting started, scaling into thriving groups, or even preparing to sell. We've seen it all, and we know exactly what makes a practice tick financially. On Therapy for Your Money, I'll help you build a business that truly works for you. You'll get quick, actionable tips and episodes so that you can grow a profitable practice, increase your financial confidence, and pay yourself unapologetically. Because your work is way too important for you to burn out or go broke doing it. Love the podcast? Make sure to follow and give us a 5-star review. Here is Therapy for Your Money. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Therapy for Your Money. Today, I am chatting with Uriah Guilford from Productive Therapist, who also happens to be a friend. I see him often on the conference circuit, and we like to hang out, eat some barbecue, and just chat technology and AI. So Uriah, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. It's always a thrill to talk to you. And if there's barbecue involved, that's even a little bit better.
Even better, right. Yeah. So Uriah, I reached out to you because with Productive Therapist, you've had the VA, a virtual assistant company, for many, many years, and you've taken it kind of in a new direction in the last year with an AI intake tool. And I wanted to chat about that today because I'm so interested. I have so many questions, and specifically, I want to know how it can make people more money or save the money, right? Combination of like saving money, making money, because early 2026 has already been a little bit challenging, right? Like kind of number of intakes are lower, calls, like outreach from potential clients is not super high. So like you've got to make the most of the calls that you are getting, right?
Yeah, there's so much that's shifting and changing, but there's a single problem that I think has been in existence ever since I started my therapy career. And that is it's very hard for people to find the right therapist and to get a response from a therapist in a timely manner, right? And I've been in private practice for 18 years now, which is pretty wild. But that's always been my experience. People are surprised when they get a call back because they call or reach out to 5 to 10 therapists in a moment of need, obviously, right?
Yeah.
They or a family member really needs therapy. And usually when someone reaches out for therapy, they don't just need it like in the next month. They probably need it like yesterday. And therapists get busy, and there's lots of reasons why this happens, but it's hard for therapists to respond quickly to new referrals, new inquiries. And it's never been more important than it is now because of what you were talking about there. The industry is changing, things are shifting, people have more options. So a private practice needs to respond as quickly as possible. And some of the solutions we're going to talk about are kind of some of the best that I found.
Yeah. And often I find that the person who gets back to you the soonest is likely the one that you're going to end up going with, right? Like I just
1,000%.
went through the exercise, but for one of my kids needed it physical therapy, so adjacent. And like the number of places we had to reach out to just get like someone who can see, yes, we can see you. That is always so
Right.
surprising to me, right? Like we're just working with so many private practices, like why is it so hard to get scheduled even like in
No, it's true.
2026?
It's still frustrating.
Yeah.
And absolutely, the first to respond usually gets the client. And I
Yeah.
read a study that said that a consumer will pick not their first option if that person or that practice or that company responds quicker. So they'll
Yeah.
go with the first available and the first to respond. And I think that's always been true to some degree. And I like to tell this story about my plumbing accident where I was one day I was doing, DIY home improvements and I was hanging something above the toilet in our downstairs bathroom. And I accidentally put a screw right through the water pipe.
Oh,
So
no.
water starts seeping out of the wall. And that's a moment where you just can't ignore it, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
I have a plumbing emergency. And long story short, it was on a weekend. I pulled out my phone and immediately started looking for a plumber, called three places, phone call, and one person picked up. One plumber picked up the phone and was at my house within a couple hours, fixed my problem, and I happily paid him whatever he was going to charge me.
Yeah.
So
No
that's
questions
just an
asked.
example. But yeah, yeah. When you have a crisis and you need a solution, you usually will go with the first one that is available readily.
Yeah. And I think there's probably also a factor of the era that we're in, right? 2026. Like you can just scroll, you can get that kind of instant, like you can get some food delivered to your house in the next 20 minutes. Like, why are you going to wait 3 days, right, for
No, it's
anything?
true. It's true.
Like we are
And
maybe all a little bit guilty of that. Okay.
it's
So
not great, but it's a reality, right?
it's
Because
true.
you can download an app or go to a site from one of the big therapy companies and
Yeah.
you can essentially self-serve and get a therapist. So that's kind of what we're up against. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we're not saying that that's good. I don't think it is good, but that is kind of your competition in a lot
Right.
of ways. Yeah. So, tell us about what you're doing with AI with simple intake.
Yes. So for the last 8 years, Productive Therapist has been focused on providing intake specialists, intake coordinators that can provide part-time admin support for practices who don't need a full-time person or even a dedicated part-time person. And that's been our core service. And primarily that's been focused on responding to new inquiries, matching them with the right therapist, handling
Hmm.
back office tasks. Incredibly helpful for growing practices, right?
Sure.
And I've always been fairly obsessed with technology and love business. So I put those two together and I got the term head nerd somewhere along the way, and that's what I do. And then AI came along a couple of years ago, and I've been fascinated by it and figuring out how to use it to solve problems. So last year, I had this kind of like eye-opening experience where I realized that the conversational voice AI agents were getting extremely good. The latency was low, which means there was not long space between the human talking and the AI responding. And then it had the ability to have a natural back and forth conversation. So not like a voicemail kind of phone tree type thing. It was
Hmm.
very engaging. And then the last thing that kind of sealed the deal for me was realizing that these tools and these AI agents could actually schedule calls with anyone, but let's say an intake coordinator. And when I realized that, I thought, okay, that's the solution that I want to connect to our human team. And then, fast forward, I figured out how to build it and offer it to our therapist members in house. And that's what we're doing now. We're combining the best of the human intake coordinator experience for the connection, the empathy, the human touch with the speed of AI. And so far, it's going really well, and I'm excited about it.
Amazing. So, if someone calls in looking for therapy, what happens?
Yeah. So if folks want to visit my website for my counseling practice, intunefamily.com, if you just want to do like an actual live demo, call the number. There's also a chat widget on there that is AI powered through our tool. And so you can ask about fees, insurance, any question, and it will answer those questions. And then we also have demo calls on simpleintake.ai if you want to go and listen to a couple that we've kind of like done and recorded and played. But yeah, so if you call my practice right now, I think is it Jennifer or Sarah? Can't remember what name I gave it.
You give them a
We'll
name.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We'll answer and disclose that it's an AI assistant, right? That's important. And in California and some other states, it's actually required by law now to do that. And it will ask what they need, and then it will answer their questions. It will collect information from them. And in my case, this is the way I have it set up. It will offer them a scheduled call with Tiffany, our human intake coordinator. And that's kind of the next step. And then after that call is over, the notification goes to my intake coordinator with the capability to review that call and respond and take the next action. And so that it's intended to be seamless and helpful. And we can get into talking about people's bad experiences with these types of things because I had one yesterday I'll tell you about.
I would love
But
to
the
hear
way
about
that
it.
Yeah, the way that we've set it up, there's a human handoff feature built in. So if somebody gets upset or they don't want to talk to AI, happens a
Sure.
lot. If they ask to talk to a human, then they can get transferred, right? So they don't get stuck in a
Okay.
loop. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so really, Sarah or Jennifer, you're like the AI can
Yeah.
get all the way through the scheduling though, right? So like they will pick a time, it will be on the calendar, the client will get an
Hmm.
email confirmation as well. Like all of those things can happen. So then they just know like, okay, this is the next step. I just show up for the intake call with the real person. And
Exactly.
that's incredible.
It really is. Yeah. The one thing it doesn't do now that people keep asking about is scheduling. People want it to schedule directly with the therapist inside of the EHR.
mm,
And that's not a
yeah.
capability we have yet. Hopefully it will be in the future. But for now, it's just kind of handling everything between what I call first contact to first session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is still a very, very important time, right?
it
Like you
is.
want that y- then the human can make sure that they get in the EHR on the actual schedule.
Right.
But I imagine you probably can't get into the EHR, right? From a API or technology perspective. Like, are you able to even get in
Yeah.
or
If you want to get technical, the EHR platforms that have an open API, it can integrate with the tool that we
okay.
have, which is called Simple Intake. We're working with a practice that's using, oh, what is the name of that EHR? It's a larger one that actually has a published open API. So we're
Okay.
trying to figure out how we can do that. But like therapy notes and Simple Practice and those kinds of EHRs, at this point they don't have that capability for some understandable reasons. But I think that will be certainly like required in the future, or it'll
Yeah.
be more common. Yeah.
Like the newer developers are probably going to be working those things into EHRs in the future, I would think.
I don't really know the behind the scenes on that, so I can't really
Yeah.
speak to that. But
Yeah.
I know there's obviously privacy and digital security and HIPAA
Sure.
compliance to look at. But a lot of the tools that are being built have a lot of that built in. Like our tool is HIPAA compliant, right? And
Hmm.
so it's definitely possible. And I think there might be some reasons that some companies don't want to open up their API, which
Right. I'm
I could also
willing
understand.
it. I'm willing it into existence. Here
There
I
you
am.
go. Let's do it.
Okay, well, so let's talk money. Like, how are some of the
Yeah.
ways that this is changing the financial picture for a practice? And
Right.
also, what size practice is this just stellar for?
Yeah, the amazing thing is that this can benefit a solo practice all the way up to the largest group practice,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's basically infinitely scalable. It can answer over 100 calls at any given moment,
Wow.
and it like works tirelessly without all the benefits of AI. Right? It never takes a vacation, never gets sick, all those kinds of things,
Hmm.
and it's incredibly cost effective. We're talking like pennies versus dollars, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can talk specifics on that, but like if you want your practice's phone number the calls answered 100% of the time, the best solution in some ways is to use a virtual call center. So it's like a distributed call center of human receptionists, right? I used to actually work in one of those back in the day in college, and they're very good at what they do. But it's a different person answering the phone every single time,
Right.
and they generally can't get access to your EHR. And it usually costs. I looked at this recently. It usually costs about $2 to $4 per minute.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, that
relatively
makes
expensive, but
sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like if
you're
it's a
paying
real
for
human. Yeah.
you're paying for the real human, 100% live answer, and it costs some money. Whereas, just to do a comparison, the AI receptionist is about 19 cents per minute.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
And
Yeah.
the way that we offer it, we actually have unlimited usage, so it doesn't even factor in. But yeah, if you look at like on the extreme ends, $4 per minute versus let's say 20 cents per minute, like big difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So solo practice, like that can just be the plan where the intake coordinator might be like the clinician, but when they have specific blocks maybe of time scheduled for intake versus a large practice, 50 clinicians, you still don't have someone answering the phone 24/7, right? So it can be, is it usually the overnight or off hours or like when no one's available
Yeah.
solution, or is it the main solution still?
There's a ton of flexibility, and I'm finding that every practice wants to do it a little bit differently, which is
Okay.
totally fine. Some want to use it as a backup for nights and
Mm,
weekends and off times. Some want it answering all the time and responding all the time. That's my preference, just because I
yeah.
think it's the best solution. So there's different ways that it can be set up, but our goal really is to connect people with a human faster. We're not trying to replace the intake coordinator. We're not trying to replace the therapist, certainly. We're just trying to make that connection faster and increase the quality and speed of the follow up.
Okay. Okay. So huge savings I can see from a call center. And in reality, I don't think most practices have that, right? It's just they're off hours that no one's answering the call. But probably
Right.
the big upside is like getting the client actually engaged as fast as possible, right? What are some of the results that you've seen?
Yeah, one of the cool things is that, like, let's just talk about the chatbot that's on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the conversational, the voice AI that answers the phone, it remembers the conversations that they've had in the past. So it knows who they are. So if you were to call my practice once and then another time, whether it's, 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, it would remember your name, your email, your phone number. So it has that context about the person, which is pretty helpful. So that's really nice. I actually forgot your question. What was your question?
Like, what are some of the results you have seen? Like, are you hearing back from some of your clients saying, "Oh, we are, our session counts are increasing," or like any kind
Right.
of result, like direct results that you can attribute to
Yeah.
simple
Thank you. Good
intake?
question. So we've been offering this for about 6 months, and so we don't have enough data to really
Mm,
claim any like conversion percentage increases yet. I've looked at a ton of studies, and they all basically say the faster you respond, the higher your conversion
yeah,
rates, and that leads directly to revenue and business growth. So, but the experiences that people have had so far is really good. But I will be honest with you and tell you like the range of people's responses to the AI receptionist as far as therapists, what they think about it. But the actual results are pretty immediate because once we turn this on, once we train it and turn it on, you have 100% confidence that all of your calls are being answered. And there's
yeah,
100% of visibility into it. So your team can see everything about those calls and everything that's happening. So, like, quality control and quality assurance is all kind of baked in.
yeah. You see the transcripts?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do have the capability to turn on call recording and with consent, of
Sure.
course, and then store that in a HIPAA compliant environment. Yeah.
Amazing. How often does it happen that someone gets mad at the AI? Because I feel like that's probably a fear of a lot of practice owners, but I don't think it probably doesn't happen that often, right?
That was me yesterday.
Okay. Oh yeah, tell
I,
me about your bad AI experience.
Yes. So I was calling an insurance company, the company that provides workers' comp insurance to us, and I was trying to solve a problem. And they had this very chatty, male AI assistant that was purportedly very helpful. But everything that I tried, I couldn't get where I needed to go. I got mistransferred to the wrong places. And even when I started getting angry and saying, speak to a representative, I want a human, it didn't do that. It literally wouldn't let me out of the loop. So I was
Mm,
so frustrated. And if I did not have a commitment to this particular company and this particular insurance plan, I would be like, okay, I'm taking my business elsewhere.
it's time. Yeah.
And I know people have had these experiences. You referenced one too. And there's this idea or this sentiment that, like, and we could talk about the range here, but that AI is not helpful and people are going to probably not like it and they're going to get mad at it and that type of thing. But my take on this is that nobody really wants to talk to an AI agent. But if you have an experience talking to one and it solves your problem or it gets you closer to the person that's going to solve your problem, you really don't mind. If it works, it's fine. It's okay. But when it doesn't work, that's when we get frustrated and
Yeah.
and, and those kinds of things. Yeah.
To your point though, I honestly I don't want to really talk to anyone on the phone. I would rather not
Yeah.
call. Right?
Right.
So we kind of drove by it, but if you also have a chatbot on your website that works, that can actually get you scheduled, right?
Yes.
Sometimes the chatbot's not helpful, and then you still have to call. But if you can just get the thing done on the website, like to me, that's even better.
It is. And at least for productive therapists, we notice that we don't get very many calls. We never have, but people are engaging with our chatbot all the time.
Yeah.
And most recently, we're hiring. You and I were chatting about that before we hit record, but lots of applicants are chatting with our chatbot and it's directing them to the jobs page. It's directing them to giving them instructions on how to apply, what to expect with the job. and people are chatting with it, therapists asking about our services, asking about the AI receptionist, which is great because we basically have the AI, sharing information and pitching the AI
Yeah.
services. So, and I get to see all this on the back end. It's pretty fascinating. Is it perfect? No. But when I see a conversation that doesn't go the way I want it to go, or let's say it gives the wrong link or something like that,
Yeah.
I go back into the training and I add some FAQs, I add some
Yeah.
information so that next time it does it perfect. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So we added a AI chatbot on our website
Oh, nice.
last year, which has been really helpful. Where I find it people get frustrated if they're trying to ask a specific accounting question, right? And like we just can't, we don't have enough context to answer that in the
Hmm.
context of a chatbot. I couldn't answer that on the phone without like seeing the tax return and knowing all that. And so it's not that, but for people who are going to it and expect, like, I just want to ask a question about the company or what
Right.
it looks like or services or that. Amazing, beautiful.
And that kind of reflects the experience that a lot of people are having with their other AI tools, whether it's
Yeah.
ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. They want to go and ask a question and get a helpful answer as quickly as possible. So if
Hmm.
we can do that for them in the therapy journey, I think it's really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, with more and more smaller practices, right? That's what we've seen since 2020, just a lot more people going out on their own and doing their own, single, hanging their own shingle as a single clinician.
Right.
If that's what you want, amazing. But it's hard to do all the things. I think this is fantastic, a fantastic way to like still be able to get the clients the information they need super fast when you're not live answering. Yeah.
Definitely.
You're right. This was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If our listeners are interested in finding out more about Simple Intake or Productive Therapist, where should they go?
Yeah, so all of our services are on our homepage at productivetherapist.com. And then the links are on there, but you can go to productivetherapist.com/simple intake and check it out. And you can check out the demo calls. You can book a call with our team. You can chat with our AI if you want and test it out and see what
Yeah.
you think. I would love to hear from your listeners.
Amazing. Perfect. And we'll link that in the show notes as well. This is probably a repeat guest on the podcast, so thank you for coming on again. I'm so grateful for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the future for whatever we cook up next.
Absolutely. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. That's it for today's episode of Therapy for Your Money. Catch us on Instagram and Facebook at Therapy for Your Money Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to Green Oak Accounting on YouTube. Until next time.
The information contained in this podcast represents the host and guest's general opinions and should not be construed as personalized accounting and tax advice. Listeners should consider all facts and circumstances before applying this information and seek appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. Any info provided does not constitute accounting, tax, or legal advice.